Hello, I'm Tim Good, and I'm here to introduce the Bankstream Accountants Confidence Index, a new quarterly monitor of how accountants feel about their business. This is in association with AccountingWEB, and with me here today, John Stokdyk from AccountingWEB and Frank Woods of Bankstream. Frank, before we get into the results of this first confidence index, what was the purpose behind Bankstream setting up this survey?
Tim, we're a business that focuses exclusively on accountants. All of our focus and our effort goes into improving the lot of accountants. So we thought it was a good time, about time if you like, to introduce a regular monitoring service to give us a feel for how accountants are feeling about their own performance, how they see themselves at the moment, how they see it going forward, and also to get a view on how they think their performance of their small business customers is. It's going to be interesting, I think, to see how the trends evolve over a period of time. So we'll be looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. I think it'll be interesting for accountants as well. Well,
especially the AccountingWEB members, and I've known John for many years and been involved on and off with AccountingWEB over the years, and it's a very active forum for accountants and very much the sort of core audience that I talk to in the lecture room. And I know that at this time of year, after self-assessment, they're getting back into normal routines, as it were, and some of them licking their wounds, some of them patting themselves on the back. And should we ask John what, from an AccountingWEB member's perspective, it's looked like this quarter?
Now, when you look at the detail, the amount that the rating they gave their own firms was about 6% higher than those of their clients. So that was an interesting quirk. And if you dig into the results, we found that the main culprit, identified by 38% of the respondents, was poor record keeping among the clients.
Still.
Now, the accountants, will know that firsthand from the documentation they were dealing with during self-assessment season. But it's quite significant for the businesses themselves, because that could explain, if you really haven't got a handle on your numbers and your admin, you're going to be going forward in a bit of a haze.
And the poor record keeping then manifests itself in terms of late completion of returns, possibility of penalties, and just adding to the overall stress of getting the year-end filing done, but presumably also continues through the year.
Tim, that raises an interesting point from my perspective, because as we look at accountants year on year, looking back, it was a surprisingly small amount of them had actually grown their fees. I think that was 52%. And as I say, if we now look to the year ahead, that's a fairly small group who actually are seem to be progressing forward. Can you give us either of you, maybe start with you, Frank, what's your view on the lowness of that figure?
I think generally, John, we're looking at a situation where there's opportunity out there. I don't think it's a lack of opportunity that's causing a lack of growth, or them to see that to grow. I suspect it's more a capacity issue, and that's something that's just constraining the accountants. They were certainly pointing to that in terms of their workload at the moment. So they're going to need to look at ways of improving efficiencies, and I think really focusing on workflow, on spreading that work out throughout the year. If they can do that, that can provide them with extra capacity to be able to get out and do more, to take some of that opportunity that I think is out there in terms of revenue growth.
No, I'd agree. I think that chimes with what I come across anecdotally in the lecture room, and accountants are struggling to find the staff to do all the work that they could do in some cases, not all, obviously. And so the more that you can automate and do some of the mundane tasks and get clients to up their game, as it were, then the easier it would be to increase fees, do added value work, advisory work, as well as making sure that clients actually get information to you on time and you can do the job on the accounts and the tax returns.
Yeah, I think in terms of if you're going to look for the clients to help in that, then I think accountants have got a big role to play there in terms of assisting them in that process. And to some extent, that's a revenue opportunity for them, or a service opportunity.
Very much so.
One of the things they point to, technology, I think, does have a part to play here. It can be scary for accountants at times. So small incremental technological change can help them enormously. In the survey, they've pointed to the digitisation of paper records as something that they're focusing on. That was very pleasing from our point of view to see, because I think that's one that sort of provides opportunity for accountants to get in control of the process, which means better workflow and better record keeping in their small business clients. And that constantly comes up as an issue. It'll be interesting to see over the course of this year how that trends.
It will, and when we get the next quarterly index, then we can pick up again and see how it's developing there. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for in this short introductory video, and I'd just like to recommend that you go on to accountingweb.co.uk, do a search for Bankstream, or I think it's .co.uk/Bankstream, and download this quarter's quarterly index and have a look at the information that's in there.